Tennessee number 9 in both the AP poll, the one that matters, and then the coaches poll, which sports information directors do. So they are number 9 in both. And we want to, first of all, assess, is that about right? And then I want to look at the 8 teams that are ahead of Tennessee. Would Tennessee beat those teams if they were playing them on Saturday instead of Austin Peay? So, Jimmy, let me start with you. What do you think about number 9?
I think it's about right. When you look at what everybody else did, I don't have any argument with being Tennessee in that position. Going into the season, I thought they would be ranked between 10 and 12. That's about where they were. And when you watched them play against Virginia, one of the things that you would give them props for, which they looked a little bit better than I thought they would, was on defense. That defense is fast. They can run. They're more athletic than I think than they were a year ago. I think they are deeper than they were a year ago. And look, I get that Virginia is terrible. I understand that. But speed is speed. And when you can get off the ball like they did and you play that fast, I think that is what gives me more confidence in saying I think Tennessee's a top 10 team, because I think this defense has improved.
Caleb, think 9's about right?
Yeah, I think 9's about right. I'm with Jimmy. This isn't necessarily a whether or not I think teams ahead of them are better than them or not. To me, it's resume based to a certain degree. So I can't knock a Florida State being ahead of them when Florida State beat LSU, as little as I believe in Florida State long term. So yeah, I think 9 is about right.
All right, here we go. Let's look at the teams ahead of them. Who would Tennessee beat? So let's start with Washington at number 8. Jim, do we want to say neutral site or do we want to say at Neyland Stadium? We can workshop this as we go. What do you think?
I'd say we go neutral site. So I'm going to say in a neutral site, I think Tennessee beat Washington. Washington has a very explosive offense, score a lot of points. Michael Penix, who was a former Tennessee commit and an Indiana reject, is out there throwing it all over the ballpark, and he's got outstanding receivers. But I don't think Washington's defense is as good as Tennessee's defense. So I think Tennessee would find a way to get one more stop. I think Tennessee beat Washington.
Caleb, I agree with that.
I agree. I think Michael Penix is really regretting not committing to play for Butch Jones. I'm sure he knows that Butch Jones would have developed him so much more than I'm sorry.
What if he showed up and he was such a star that Butch Jones was still the head coach? Well, that couldn't happen, right?
Sorry?
No, I was just playing for Butch Jones. I can't even imagine after the weekend he had. That would be horrible.
Yeah, his star is shining after that Oklahoma game, isn't it?
With the former Tennessee quarterback and JT Strout starting for him.
Well, he's got a 5-star heart.
Yeah, this is like covering nowadays. Just covering college football is like covering recruiting back in the day. All these names moving around, committed to this team. I mean, it's why I stopped covering recruiting. It was just a little bit too much. So next up would be Penn State at number 8, neutral site. Does Tennessee beat Penn State at number 8?
I think Tennessee could beat Penn State. Penn State, now I think they've got a pretty good quarterback who's underrated in Drew Aller. They have a really good 1-2 running punch. But I don't think – they got one really good receiver. I don't know that Penn State offensively could keep up with Tennessee. So I think Tennessee's every bit as good as Penn State. I think Tennessee could very well beat Penn State.
I think they would. I do. I think Penn State's a little bit overrated. I do like what you said about the quarterback play, though, Caleb.
This is a total toss-up to me. And the reason it's a total – watching Penn State over the weekend, I will say the hype – the reason a lot of people were higher on Penn State going into the year was the offensive line. The hype behind the offensive line is real. And so I think the question would be, can Tennessee get the same type of pressure off the edge that they got against Virginia? And I'm not so sure they could. So I'm going to say Penn State, but it'd be by 1 in overtime. It'd be something crazy. It's a total toss-up. So I'll lean Penn State a little bit.
Tracy Morgan, what say you?
That's crazy.
All right, Southern California, USC. How about Tennessee playing USC? If they were playing this weekend, USC is at number 7. Who wins that football game?
I would lean a little bit towards Southern Cal. Now, Southern Cal's defense isn't very good, so this gets down to another one of those. The first one to 50 probably wins. But I think that the Southern Cal offense is a little bit further ahead than Tennessee's. They've got a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. It's hard to argue that he's not better than Joe Milton. They got a transfer from Arizona named Dorian Singer that I thought, man, that guy's going to light it up. Well, he's like their fourth best receiver. Are you kidding me? So I think Southern Cal's offense is so good. I would take Southern Cal.
All right, what about you, Caleb?
I'm basically ditto what Jimmy said. I totally agree. The question is, Tennessee USC football, Tennessee USC basketball. Which game ends up with more points?
Oh, football.
I think football too. I don't trust.
Well,
I think Josh Heupel
if Kevin O'Neill was still at Southern Cal, it'd definitely be football.
Oh, oh my gosh, yes. Rick Barnes and Kevin O'Neill going at head-to-head. That would have to be the most boring matchup of all time.
Guys, what about Ohio State at number 5? Neutral site. Tennessee beat Ohio State or not?
Given the history, I got to go Ohio State. I think they're a pretty complete team. Although I'll say this, their quarterback play was a little bit iffy against Indiana. I think they're better than that, but I also think Ohio State probably has a better roster right now than Tennessee. I'd go Buckeyes.
Caleb, I would go Ohio State as well.
Well, I said Penn State earlier. I think I'm going to go Tennessee over Ohio State. I think Ohio State.
That tells me that you think Penn State's better than Ohio State.
This year, I think they are. Ohio State doesn't have a quarterback. Kyle McCord was bad in that game. And also just now, yes, I trust Josh Heupel over James Franklin too, but coaching wise, I'm trusting Josh Heupel over Ryan Day. I think Ohio State's got a quarterback issue. They are better everywhere else, but they got a problem at signal caller right now.
Florida State, the Seminoles. I'll go ahead and say I think Tennessee wins this ball game. I give Florida State a lot of credit, but Jimmy, I think Tennessee's a better football team as a whole than Florida State after seeing them.
I want to hear what Caleb says. I think he was ragging on those Seminoles a little earlier. Caleb, what do you think?
Jimmy's taking his seats.
I am not changing my tune. I think last week was a collection of things that all just happened and spiraled at once, but I still say Florida State's overrated. And I think Tennessee beats Florida State. If LSU keeps Harold Perkins at edge rusher and Mason Smith isn't suspended, LSU wins that game. And so I'm going Tennessee beats Florida State.
All right, Alabama. I don't know what to take.
We got to hear Jimmy's take.
Jimmy. State. Yeah, Jimmy. Sorry.
Tennessee barely. Look, I think Florida State's pretty good. I think Jordan Travis is terrific. I think he's got 2 great receivers led by Keon Coleman, the Michigan State transfer. Their running game was not that effective. Here's the thing that was funny about the LSU-Florida State game. I kept hearing about Florida State just ran them out of the ballpark, only in the second half. LSU outplayed Florida State in the first half, had about 80 more yards, and if it wasn't for some stupid play calling and bundling when you got inside the 10-yard line, LSU still had the lead, right, 17-14. So LSU was the better team the first half. Florida State was much better in the second half, but I would take Tennessee over the Seminoles.
I'm going to go first on Bama at number 3. I take Tennessee for 2 reasons. One, I'm not sold on Jalen Milroe after a fantastic performance in week 1, so I like the quarterback matchup. And 2, I still think of that game last year in which he had, I believe, 3 turnovers. With Tennessee's pressure, I think they could force 1 or 2. So I'll go first here. I think neutral site Tennessee beats Alabama.
I've got Alabama because it's hard to beat Saban 2 years in a row. Now, we did say neutral site. In Tuscaloosa, I would clearly take Alabama. Neutral site is going to be closer. Dave, I agree with you about Milroe. I'm not sold on him in spite of the 5 total touchdowns he had last week. I still don't think he's a real accomplished passer. But I would take Alabama because it's just so hard to beat Saban 2 years in a row.
Caleb?
I'm with both y'all about Milroe, but I'd still take Alabama, largely because I know we have faith in Joe Milton to be serviceable this year, but I think you have to be an out-of-this-world quarterback and an out-of-this-world game to beat Nick Saban, and I don't think Joe Milton's capable of doing what Hendon Hooker did last year to Alabama. I don't think that's possible.
Remind you that today's tough question before we get to Michigan and Georgia is brought to you by Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Best service and prices in the biz. He's my realtor. He should be yours. AndyMasonRealEstate.com. A lot of people are making real estate moves. Go to AndyMasonRealEstate.com for the absolute elite with Elite Realty and your realtor services. So Michigan, number 2, Jim.
I guess I'm going to go with Michigan. They kind of bore me when I watch them. but they've got two really good running backs. They've got a good quarterback. They've had their roster build up over the last few years. They're pretty darn talented. They have a complete team. I would go with Michigan.
I got no argument with that, even though I wonder if Tennessee could get a lead and take control of that game with their offense. But still, I would take Michigan, Caleb.
I was so inspired by Michigan honoring Jim Harbaugh over the weekend after the tragic news of him being suspended for 3 games. You know, they treated it like he was dying of cancer. And so I'm going to go with Michigan on that.
Would everybody say Georgia at number 1 until we see otherwise?
Yes.
Nope.
Whoa.
Yeah. Oh, we got a nope.
Got a nope. I know I'm all over the place. Jimmy, I have ranted about this with Dave all season. If there's somebody, they always say there's somebody I don't bet against. There's somebody I religiously bet against, and it's Mike Bobo as an offensive coordinator. If Mike Bobo is coaching the other side, I'm always willing to bet on. He is a Jim McElwain protege. Okay, and we're going to see Jim McElwain running Georgia's offense. They don't look like they got a quarterback right now. Yes, I'm saying it. If Tennessee played Georgia on a neutral site, they'd win right now.
Wow. Jimmy, I don't know what to say. The guy hates Mike Bobo like I hate fascism. I mean, it's just it's very strong.